My Sunday sermon today, I have to say, is concerning. Because yesterday, in central London, Camberwell, just about a mile and a half from Westminster, there were some truly shocking scenes. I just first of all will show you a couple of clips that have been out on social media. You may have seen, you may not. Just take a look at these before I discuss my thoughts and get your thoughts later in the show. Take a look at them. So I just was silent there. I wanted those who are watching just to see that. But obviously some of you are listening on your radio. And to explain there were two clips of people with sticks, with poles, attacking police who simply didn't have any form of defence. They didn't have helmets, they didn't have riot gear, huge long poles and sticks. And they were attacking police vans. You heard the sirens. It was a truly terrifying scene. And that was in central London. And what on earth, what's going on? How have we ended up in this situation? There were probably up to 100 people, apparently mainly concerning an issue that's going on, concerns tension in Eritrea, in Africa, a long way away. And you might think, what is going on? Now, the footage whilst I'm speaking is of the riot police finally arriving at the scene with their shields, with their helmets, with all the gear. Not before time, because the police officers originally, men and women on the front line, frankly, I suspect would have been terrified, overwhelmed and frankly under-resourced, under-armed, faced with those long poles, those sticks and some very aggressive language and attacks from those people. Now, we've talked about it before, multiculturalism, and some people from the left say it's a great thing. Well, let's just look at the history, shall we, in the last couple of years. 2021, a teacher in Batley forced into hiding, where he's still in hiding 2 years later, because of extreme Islamist ideology. And then last year, in the beginning of September last year, 2022, we had the riots in Leicester tensions between Hindus and Muslims that went on for some 3 weeks, barely reported in the press until it became too big to ignore. Apparently about the state of cricket matches between India and Pakistan, thousands of miles away. In the last few months, we've had the pro-Palestine, Hamas-supporting marches across the United Kingdom. I called it out. They were inciting anti-Semitism, hatred and violence. But the police let them go ahead, the Prime Minister let them go ahead, and they created a scene of growing anti-Semitism. This is not a positive development. There's no optimism in this Prime Minister. This is absolute failure. This is weakness. This is woeful. And it is completely unacceptable. And these scenes we saw yesterday, this is the result of a vacuum of leadership. This is the result where if people don't fear the consequences, if they don't think there's any form of deterrent, then they will just take the law into their own hands. And what we are seeing, I'm afraid to say, is the consequences of mass, uncontrolled immigration from people from all over the world who do not understand our culture, they don't empathise with our values, they're frankly not interested and don't support our history and our heritage. They're focused on their own culture. And frankly, they're quite happy just to use and abuse our generosity, our hospitality, our tolerance, and our system of law and order. We don't do riots in this country. We don't do sticks and poles. We do lawful, legal protest. And what happened yesterday was nothing of the sort. Absolutely nothing of the sort. Our police, completely inadequately protected. Where was the leadership from the bosses of the police, frontline officers there, to protect them? Get your helmets on, get the shields out. None at all. How can you expect young men and women to want to go into the police force? I've got a close relative of mine thinking of going into the Met Police. When you look at what happened yesterday in central London, that lack of protection, and one of the reasons they're terrified is because they're not sure their bosses will look after them if it comes to it. You see, the police are very happy to take on white-skinned football thugs breaking the law. They'll go in hard on them, but they're terrified if there's rioting, bad behaviour by people of any other skin colour. They're terrified they'll be accused of racism in the police, and that actually leaves them exposed. And I have to ask the question of the leadership of the police. Seriously, are our police, are they safe in that environment? Why did you let them be so exposed? In particular, young female police officers on the front line, possibly not that tall. Have they really got the strength to deal with those sticks, those poles, that level of violence? I have to say I'm not so sure. I'm asking the question. Some might say I'm being sexist. I'm just trying to be a realist in this situation. It is completely unacceptable what happened yesterday, and nothing in the mainstream media on it. You've got to go a long way through the newspapers to get that. No reporting of those videos on the mainstream media. Why? Because it doesn't fit the narrative. It's embarrassing. It's politically incorrect. Do you see what's happening here? We're not being told the truth. You'll be told the truth here on GB News. You heard it on The Breakfast Show. You're hearing it from me now. I'm telling you what, this is totally and utterly unacceptable. It's appalling. It's the sort of thing, those scenes, you might expect to see in some tin pot town, in some tin pot country, thousands of miles away. We don't do that in the United Kingdom. No, no, no. Totally, totally unacceptable. Now, I suppose I better provide a bit of balance. No doubt some greasy, spotty, vegan, Ofcom watching juvenile is looking to report me to Ofcom for not providing balance. So I'll give you the other side of the story. I'll try and defend it. Silence. I'll tell you why. No, I'll try a bit harder. Maybe those on the left will say, well, the police signed up to it. Maybe they'll say, well, this is an acceptable small price to pay for multiculturalism. Let me tell you, my friends, my listeners, my viewers, there is absolutely nothing acceptable about what went on yesterday. But if we don't address this, if we don't clamp down on it rock solid, robustly, ruthlessly, and create a proper deterrent, this will get worse. It will get worse and worse because these sorts of people detect weakness. If you want to behave like that, there's about 195 other countries you're welcome to go and live in. We don't accept that behaviour here. I don't know who those people were. Maybe some were British-born citizens. But I've got a suspicion, and yes, I'll speculate, that a significant number, probably a majority of them, have arrived here as immigrants, either legally or illegally. But they clearly don't understand how things work here. That is utterly outrageous behaviour. That is not the British culture. We don't want it. And if you want to behave like that, please go and live somewhere else. We don't do breaking the law like that. We do lawful, legal protest. That's what a democracy is about. We don't do rioting. What we do need to do is to defend our brave policemen and women on the front line. And with that, not much optimism in this Sunday sermon, but with that, here endeth my Sunday sermon.